Okay, here we go. I have told you what hats kind of look like, a few hundred years ago. I've not told you what they're made of or how they're made. Back in like the 1600s or earlier, um, hats were made from beaver fur. I don't know how they found this out, but beaver fur apparently is the best thing for making hats out of because um, you want something that can be molded into a shape and keep that shape. And beaver fur, like the structure apparently is naturally like barbed, so it doesn't need anything doing to it to like mold it and keep that form. It's the best thing. However, everyone wears hats, everyone wants beaver fur because it's the best thing to make it from. So in Europe, beavers were wiped out by the hatting trade. Um, so there's like, oh God, where are we going to get beavers from now? North America's got beavers. Okay, we'll go there. So, there was trading with, I think, Native American. I think that's the right term now. Please correct me if I'm wrong. But anyway, the people that were already living in America before Westerners came and discovered it. Anyway, so there's trade going on, but then that trade breaks down, there's civil war, so they don't have access to beaver fur anymore. And also, they would have just wiped them out as well. Um, and so they have to look for an alternative. And the next best thing to make hats out of is rabbit fur. And there's tons of those, but it doesn't have the same structure. So they have to chemically alter the rabbit fur before they can make it into like a felt fabric that will sort of take a shape and stay there. Wool is an alternative, but it's not waterproof or has to be treated to become waterproof. So that's not as great, but fur is good. Um, so, uh, the chemical mix that they use on rabbit fur is mercury and nitric acid. Okay, so that is what people are working with. This work, by the way, is basically all done by men. It's incredibly toxic, as you can imagine. These guys are working with mercury and nitric acid, bare hands. There's no PPE, there's no health and safety regulations. This is what they do. So this process is called carroting because it turns fur orange, but then that can be dyed later on. So this mix is painted on to the rabbit fur, and then a process called planking is used, where it's over like a hot steam bath. It's like a big cone, like a big funnel. So they're leaning over this. But obviously, as you dip it into the water, the chemical is going into that, and their hands are constantly going into this acidic, mercury filled liquid. So they've got cracks on the hands, it's all going in, and these hatters start suffering from mercury poisoning pretty much straight away. So they're literally working with this day in, day out. They're also drinking because water isn't safe at that time. So the mercury poisoning and the drink, because it's hot, thirsty work, because they're working in a hot room with all this steam and all these chemicals, that's then affecting their liver functioning. It is a toxic, awful place to work. It is hard work. And this is where the Mad Hatter comes in from Alice in Wonderland. A lot of the symptoms displayed by the Mad Hatter, the paranoia, the shaking, like the confusion, that is all traits of mercury poisoning that milliners and hat makers and felters all displayed. Basically, like when inspectors went into some of these factories, because we're talking, they were factories, some of them were huge, they noticed that there was basically no one over the age of 40 working in this industry because they literally couldn't do up their buttons because they shook too much. They, were just they couldn't function anymore, um, because of all the chemicals and what it did to them. So after that, that's like the horrible stuff out of the way, but it's just to show how dangerous this industry used to be. Um, so after this felt's been made, it is formed sort of into a loose cone, which is called a hood. This hood is then put over whatever hat form or hat block you wanted to make. Um, I've got one here. So, and you would end up, so like this was a hood that I then did a course, put this bit of felt over a wooden block, pinned it, stretched it. That's hard work too. Um, and then so that's wet, and soaked, and then you leave it to dry on the block, and then when it dries, it keeps this form and it's finished off or decorated, and that's your hat. That's the process of millinery and hat making in a very basic way. Um, yeah, so I'll get on to a place that's very dear to my heart, and the hatting industry, and then the decline of the hatting industry and its aftermath.